Welcome back. This is Daybreak, and thanks for staying with us. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. On my far right is the man of God, Canon Evans Omoro, Provost at the All Saints Cathedral. Good morning.
Good morning, Abdikadir.
Lovely having you here on.
Thank you, thank you. Good to be on the show with these wonderful gentlemen.
Asante sana. Dr. Makali Mulu is the Member of Parliament representing Kitui Central Constituency, a member of the Budget Committee of the National Assembly. Good morning, Dr.
Hi, good morning.
Much appreciated. His counterpart from the constituency of Uriri is with us this morning, Mark Nyamita. Good morning.
Good morning, Ayub.
Much appreciated. And FCPA Bilokero joins us this morning, former Mandera County Senator and political economist. Thank you for your time. Gentlemen, let's begin with a look at the front pages of the dailies and this most recent story and what Kenyan Boniface Mwangi and Agather Atuhaire, a Ugandan activist, yesterday had detailed as the harrowing accounts and the chilling ordeal marked by midnight raids and sexual abuse that were meted on them, experiences revealing cross-border crackdown on voices of dissent under the guise of maintaining peace. Starting with this, and coming to you first, Provost, given Kenya's stature as a liberal democracy somewhat, given our constitutional dispensation and Katiba, are you concerned by the spate of abductions, torture, and extrajudicial means across the region?
Ayub and fellow Kenyans, it's incredibly worrying to see the abductions that we've witnessed here locally, which indeed we condemned severally and called out the security agencies that purportedly were involved, who indeed were even confirmed by people who then served in high places in government that indeed, yes, they were involved. It is saddening for me as a member of this esteemed country to see that being exported to our neighbors. And what happened in Tanzania to our fellow Kenyans is indeed regrettable. Regrettable on very many fronts. One, that the government, especially Ministry of Foreign Affairs, did not in any way make any attempt to seek to understand why these Kenyans were abducted, why they were detained without charge, and what offense they had committed. In bilateral relations, as much as you'd want to maintain diplomacy, first and foremost, your loyalty is to your citizens. And therefore, we expected PS Sing'oei, Minister, and the rest to issue a statement demanding release of those Kenyans. And therefore, it's indeed worrying that this is being transported across the border, but most unfortunately, that people who are supposed to call out such illegal and inhumane acts are not acting, and therefore would wish that something is done differently, because we do not need to hold a delicate relationship if members of our country are being mishandled.
Yeah. And Bilo, how concerned is this? Yesterday, the Chief Justice Emeritus, Dr. Willy Mutunga, said this echoes the struggle for multipartyism in Kenya, calling on the African Union and the international community for attention on regional developments. Is it as concerning as that?
Yes, first let me also condemn really what has happened in Tanzania to these young people, because I think it's there can be differences of opinion in politics, but I think to treat people who simply have gone there to express their solidarity with a leader of opposition who is being charged in court, I think it is extreme. I've not seen a situation like this before. But I think it seems that it's worrying, but whom are we talking to? Which African Union? I mean, everyone has a skeleton in the cupboard in most of these countries. We are the most liberal in the region, the most democratic, if you will, but these things happen even in Kenya. So when you say international community, which one? America has been abducting people the last few months, doing the same thing. You see it happening in Germany. So it's becoming very difficult to expect that someone else out there would be able to take action on countries, like Uganda or Tanzania or Kenya, with regards to this thing. I think it still remains the responsibility of the citizens in these countries to continue agitating for reforms to ensure that they're allowed to express dissent in a manner that is consistent with the law. And I don't think, personally, that there will be much would expect from many of these institutions. But I think it's really sad and very unfortunate that this happened from our neighbors, because a neighbor is a very important relationship.
Yeah.
You would not expect that from a very close neighbor. You know, even if they didn't like it, the worst they should have done is return them from the airport, the way they did to some of the other members of parliament.
Yeah. And Honorable Mark Nyamita, is it concerning that the region is hurtling towards strongmanship and autocracy, shrinking space in democracy, liberalism, freedom of expression, and how can this be remedied given the current situation in the region?
First and foremost, let me also join my colleagues in condemning what happened to Boniface Mwangi, who is a Kenyan, and of course the Ugandan lady. If what they explained on TV is anything really to go by, that shouldn't happen to anyone in any part of the country in this day and age. It's dehumanizing. It is actually uncalled for. But speaking as a Kenyan, I think then we really find ourselves a bit privileged, that really then we have come a long way. And maybe for some of those Kenyans who are now just coming up, especially the younger generation, to understand that we were there before and that really we have made serious strides. Because in this country, you know, you can really criticize, you can go on the street, and I don't think we have gotten to a point of such extreme. Now, speaking of the region, I think that it is sad that it has happened from our neighbors. But I also want to say that our people really also, our activists from different countries, really need to restrain themselves. They need to understand the landscape that we are operating in. That the landscape in Kenya is totally different with what you will find in Uganda. It's totally different with what you will find in Tanzania. And even when then they push themselves to push for the issues they want in those other jurisdictions, maybe they need to alert also the Kenyan authorities that, you know, we are crossing over, so that it is also handled in good time. Because, for example, the case of Boniface Mwangi, the gentleman was actually pulled from his hotel. I don't know why they pulled him from his hotel, because he hadn't actually gotten to the point where at the court where he wanted to go. So, you know, there's free movement within the region. For example, myself, I can even drive across from my county to Tanzania. So if I drove in there and I'm sat in a hotel and, you know, you're pulled out of a hotel and you're subjected to some of those things, it's really sad. But I think that the silence of the regional bodies, like, you know, we've talked about the African Union, maybe the East African community needs to speak to some of these things. And we need to open the democratic space across. And there are lessons to learn in Kenya, just as there are lessons to learn from those other countries. Yeah.
You said it's sad that this is happening. Is it also not sad that we handed over Kizza Besigye last year to the authorities in Uganda, literally pulling him into the lion's den and abducted, taken from Nairobi? And what do you make of, as a parliamentarian, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs' approach to what happened to Boniface Mwangi and the others, including a former Chief Justice who was detained and then deported back from an airport?
Well, I think that maybe there should have been a much stronger statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, or maybe slightly stronger engagement, especially when a citizen of this country, because it could happen to anyone. Today it could be Boniface Mwangi, tomorrow it could be me. That we should almost behave like Americans, you know. If an American got a problem in this country, the attention that their country would give to save one particular person would be, you know, they'll pull all resources towards it. And by the time this issue was reported, I don't think it was as grave as now we are learning. I don't think it was as grave as that we thought that they were going to be subjected to torture. Because when I read the statement was that the person has actually been arrested and they were organizing for, you know, normal deportation back to the country. But listening yesterday and seeing Boniface, you know, shed tears, he has a family, you know, he has children. And to be subjected to some of that thing, you wouldn't want it even for your worst of enemy. So we think that maybe we learn from that event. And the learning is on both sides. The government needs to learn that whenever any of our Kenyans is caught in such a situation, they need to move in with speed. But our people also need to restrain themselves, understanding the geography of the region, that Uganda is not Kenya, Tanzania is not Kenya.
Okay.
And we might have a regime that maybe sometimes does not push them to such extremes. But these regimes are different. Okay.
Dr. Makali, what do you make of the apology the president issued on Wednesday during the national prayer breakfast and these regional developments? Is it adequate and sufficient for prescription of the problem that we have here at home and also across the region?
Maybe before I come to the apology, let me also join my colleagues in saying that I did listen and watch Mwangi tell Kenyans what happened to him and the world. And I must say, what they went through with Agather is unacceptable, completely unacceptable, and more so in the 21st century, where issues...
Okay, Honorable Makali, I need to fix your mic there. It seems you have dropped off your fine. It happens.
Yeah, sure.
Well, the man of God is about to help.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Okay, in the meantime, I'll continue with the provost. Yeah, yours is okay. Yeah, we will proceed.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll come back to him. Yeah, my colleague will come and fix it.
Okay.
Yes, please. Yeah. Carry on. Yeah.
I wanted to make a rejoinder to what Honorable Mark has said, which indeed is true. My only concern is when you have people who are close to the president joining the foray of prematurely and without information condemning Kenyans who are being mishandled and mistreated in a foreign country, then the only conclusion you can arrive at is that this is coming from the top seat, from the house on the hill. If those who are around the president are the ones who are condemning our fellow Kenyans who are suffering and who are abducted. I think, as we said, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Interior, whichever ministry, needs to call Kenya's ambassador, Tanzania's ambassador here, to offer certain explanations because it seems the executive office of the president must have been aware, may have been contacted, may have given a nod for these things to happen. I'm interpreting from things we've had in the rallies.
Yes, Dr. Ari, please proceed.
Yeah, thank you, Ayubu. What I was saying is I took time to listen and watch Mwangi and Agather explain what happened to the two, both to Kenyans and to the world. And I think we should condemn this issue. Everyone should be able to condemn it and say it is unacceptable in the 21st century. But even as I was watching them, what I was asking myself, could this be happening everywhere? It's only that people don't have that courage to come out and talk. Because, you know, Mwangi was saying, I was told if I ever make a mistake of making this public, they were recording him, saying, we'll release these tapes.
Of you being naked.
Of you being naked. So that what they were doing, they're instilling such a fear to a level that you should not talk. So I was asking myself, could this be happening all over around us? That people who go there, they are tortured, and because they are being threatened with exposure, they don't talk. The other question is what my colleague Nyambita is talking about, the issue of regional issues like appreciating Tanzania is not Kenya, appreciating Kenya is not. I totally disagree with him. We are East Africans. Ayubu, I have an East African passport personally. The other day I was going to Rwanda, and I can tell you my passport was busy somewhere else. So what I did, I used my ID, and I crossed over with my ID. So this pretense, where we talk about East Africa in terms of talking, but the spirit of East Africa is not in us, I don't think it's helping us. And that's what we were saying, what Tanzania did to Kenyans was wrong. This idea of we are brothers and sisters, if we really want to call ourselves brothers, you don't do this to your brother or to your sister. You do this to your enemy. And I think time has come when we must come out strongly and tell the leaders, East Africa is for East African citizens. It's not for the leaders. President Suluhu, President Museveni, President Ruto are not East Africa. They are there standing on our behalf. As we live, East Africans, if we go to any common Tanzanian, I remember, anytime we travel out, and Nyamita will bear me this witness, anytime we go for international conferences, And we meet our colleagues from Tanzania in those conferences, the MPs from Tanzania, the MPs from Uganda. You feel more seeing a brother and a sister than you would feel seeing an American or a Briton. And when they come back now to their parliament, they go bashing everybody else. Members of parliament bashing their fellow members. This is not to warn Hayubu. This is not, we can't accept this.
Yeah.
We are saying we must live the spirit of East Africa, both the leaders and the common mwananchi of East Africa.
Yeah, and below, in a world where there is an overlooking of major events, including human rights violations, what's happening in Gaza, for instance, and the world now waking up, apparently, given what's been happening since October 2023, and Kenya's expression of its support for Israel, Russia, and Ukraine, and handing over Kizza Besigye, and what happened to the Ethiopian in 2021, abducted from the streets of Nairobi. What happened to our own Gen Zs here? Are our credentials equally at stake, given what's been happening? And now talking about democracy, yes. Of course, the people in Tanzania, Uganda, are struggling to loosen the government's grip on what they see, hear, and read. But our own credentials, do we have the moral authority now to talk about human rights ourselves?
You know, sadly, we have always been on the wrong side of history in this country. Even from the time of apartheid in South Africa, we have always supported the wrong side, those who are perpetrators of human rights violations. And a very good example was South Africa. When even Tanzania and other countries in Southern Africa were supporting those who are fighting for freedom across the region, Kenya was sadly always in the laps of the Western imperial system. So I think it's very unfortunate that even today, we as a country that many think is really more democratic than any other in the region should not be speaking out about what's happening in Tanzania or what's happening in other parts of the world, like in what's happening in Gaza. I mean, Kenya is literally beholden to those who are perpetrating genocide in that part of the world. So I think it's very unfortunate. But I think, in my view, sometimes I look at it and say, why would the government really be that desperate to support some of these situations? And you find that it's all about government wanting, those in power wanting to protect themselves. If you speak out on Tanzania, and it's happening to you tomorrow also, then they think that supporting Tanzania or keeping quiet on what happened in Tanzania or Uganda, would be more helpful to them than to speak out, because it seems that the pressure is everywhere, including even in our own. People have been on the streets demanding change, demanding this and demanding that, and so the government seems to think that they would rather, support them. This is very unfortunate, really. And I think Kenya, it's very sad that whatever administration comes in, we have always been, it's been there. People think during Kibaki there wasn't. It was one of the worst times when people have been abducted, and even hundreds of Kenyans one time were taken all the way to Ethiopia. So it happened under Uhuru. Hundreds were abducted on grounds of terrorism and so forth. So it's always, we've always said that why is it so difficult for our government to arrest and take people to court? Why is it so difficult but unfortunately, you can understand what's happening in the rest of, why they're supporting, for example, Israel, because of interest of the US and so forth. But in this case, in East Africa, why would you want to go all the way to allow your people, your own people, to be subjected to this kind of punishment? It's not acceptable. And I think the least you would have expected, I agree with my colleagues who have said that the least they would have expected is at least call in the Tanzanian ambassador and ask why did this happen? I mean, I think this is what happens diplomatically in every country in the world when something happens to their citizens.
Okay. And Honorable Nyamita, what does then this project of our status and what the president hailed as a free society, but ideally also still descending with violence on those who oppose the status quo times, what we witnessed last year when young Kenyans had taken to the streets to demonstrate against the punitive proposals in the now dead Finance Bill 2024, the apology he offered on Wednesday during the National Prayer Breakfast?
You'd allow me to just, Honorable Makali Mulu said that, we are East Africans. I agree completely that we are East Africans. but we are not Tanzanians. Kenyans are East Africans, but we're not Tanzanians. Tanzanians are East Africans, but they're not Kenyans. Our regimes are totally different. Actually, maybe a much longer debate would settle this matter on whether the East African region, or let me talk about Kenya, but East African at large, the issue of the freedoms that we enjoy, whether the country is fully ready for some of those freedoms. It's been a very big debate, and whether it's about time to consider a bit of what we would call benevolent dictatorship to ensure that our country goes, because sometimes we abuse the freedoms that we actually have. We completely abuse the freedoms that we have. I'm not saying that the people who went to Tanzania actually abused the freedom that we have, but I'm saying the region as it is, we are East African, but Kenyans are not Tanzanians. These regimes are totally different. You see, because when Kiza was here, when he was taken back, there's a blame on the government, why did you take this person back to the other side? When the other guys on the other side are dealt with the best way they know, on the other side you're saying, oh, why did they have to do that? Why didn't they send them back here? If they had actually probably brought them back here, we would also still be sitting on this table and saying, our own citizen was actually grabbed from the other side and brought back to this other side. But I think that the heads of state within the East African region, not only the three countries, but the region, including Rwanda and all the other countries within the East African region, and Africa at large, need to come together and agree on certain ways of treating our citizens. Because when my colleague says, for example, the discussion that actually took place in the Tanzanian parliament might appear a small thing, but it has a potential of bringing in a lot of issues between the two countries. The speech that was given by our Tanzanian colleagues in their parliament, trying to, belittle us and call us names and, call us that, we are a bad-mannered country and all those sort of things, has a great potential, because there are many Kenyans who are doing business across the border. And there are many Tanzanians who are doing business or who live also here. Tanzanians come here to seek medication, because I think sometimes we have better facilities than themselves. The elite of Tanzania bring their kids to school here in numbers. They have property here, they live here. So I think it was a bit reckless of the Tanzanian parliament for the speech that they actually did. But speaking to the apology, as you actually alluded to, I think, and maybe the man of God would try and tell us here, human beings, we shouldn't be able to judge the other person on what wording you need to put in your apology. It's like prayer. Okay. When I made my prayer this morning, it could have been 2 sentences, but maybe the provost did his for an hour. Maybe this gentleman did a fast the whole day. But, I cannot judge that his prayer was better than the other one. I think it was bold for the president as a first step to say that, he has apologized for the people who have actually been wrong. And the conversation needs to progress from there. But then when the apology has actually been done, what is it that we need to do so that we don't find ourselves in a situation where we found ourselves? There were issues, there were extra things that didn't go very well. There were issues of police brutality. So maybe there needs to get to the next level of people who are, brutalized wrongly by the police. What is it that we're going to do to them?
Okay.
But having said that,
the party leader proposed they should be compensated.
Yeah, but that having been said, also I think that we need to think about a generation that we are also bringing up. It is actually something that we need to think of as a country.
Okay, thank you.
It is easier to keep on saying, let us give the freedom to our children and all those sort of things. But we need to think about how did we get to where we are ourselves, and what generation are we actually bringing up? Because if we are not careful, we are going to have a very irresponsible generation in the years to come.
Okay. Thanks, gentlemen. When we get back from the break, Provost, I'll begin with you on the hearings on the Finance Bill 2025, which will be kicking off in the counties, at least 10 counties, as per the Finance and National Planning Committee of the National Assembly, and some of the proposals contained in the Bill 2025, the VAT regime in the country, spending unborrowing, as well as the concerns that were expressed before Parliament last week by the Controller of Budgets, Dr. Margaret Nyakango. All that after the break here on the broadcast stage.